You see 10 people? Oh. Oh. Well, now I'm over on the bulwark or something. That's not right. That's not good. Oh, yes, now I see it is happening. Okay, that's good. All right. I'm going to act on that. I just want to say, first of all, welcome to the pre-ramble. The pre-ramble is this little moment where I think somewhere between 4 and 10 of you are watching YouTube, but the show hasn't really started yet. And I just want to say, if there are any complaints about today's show, I just want to say to you people, you complainers out there, try taking as much ketamine as I've taken today and then doing a radio show.
2 minutes.
A live radio show, all right? Because, do you know why I take ketamine? That's actually a question. Now, one of the problems with the ketamine is you forget why you were given it in the first place. So does anybody know why I'm taking ketamine? You could put it in the comments. I think that's what they're hoping here, that we'll use the comment threads for, to explain things to me. Why am I taking ketamine? And why am I taking so much of it? And is it going to make me wet my pants? Those big questions, really, big questions. But yes, we're moments away, and I'm just back from vacation. Went to Montreal. Probably won't talk about it very much unless somebody calls up about it. Let's see. I'm looking just to see what people want to talk about. See if it's anything I know anything about. Yesterday I spent a lot of time just reading stuff. I read one thing, I read another thing, I read another thing, and now I don't remember any. I should have taken notes on what I was reading because none of it adhered. And maybe that's why they gave me the ketamine, to jog my memory. Is that one of the label uses of ketamine, to jog your memory? I should have asked a lot more questions at the doctor's office, assuming that was even a doctor. Most of the people in the alley seemed to think this person was a doctor.
30.
Okay, here we go. We're going to just do a show.
If it feels like the show is real at all.
I think, yes. I mean, it just really could be a computer simulation. But you don't know that either unless you're one of the people running the simulation, some being somewhere. In which case, get a life, all right? Stop messing with us.
That's what they pay Gene and I for.
That's right.
June is busting out all over the meadow and the hill.
Floods are busting out of bushes and the romping river pushes every little wheel that wheels beside a mill. June is busting out all over the ocean's full of Jackson Jills.
With her little tail a swishing, every lady fish is wishing that a male would come and grab her by the gills.
Because it's June, 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 June. Just because it's June, June, June.
Okay, pop quiz. In the musical carousel, what month is it? I'm going to give you a hint. It's somewhere in this song. There's a hint about what month it is. Anyway, welcome back to, and I guess I'm welcoming myself back too because I've been away, but I've been a Wandervogel, but we're all back, and it's Ask or Tell Me Anything, and you can call 888-720-9677. Several people already have. 888-720-WNPR, if you'd like to spell things with your phone pad. Did you know, by the way, I suppose most of you do know, but there are countries that you can go to. I'm not talking about Canada now. But if you go to Europe and you have, like, if your, password, your bank password is like the name of your dog or something, that's not particularly helpful because they typically don't have those alphanumeric keypads. And I think part of the problem is that, like you get up to Scandinavia, they got like some extra letters up there, I think. They got like O's with slashes through them and T's with little bow ties on them. I don't know what the extra letters are. But anyway, if you're going to be traveling to Europe and you haven't done so before and you haven't used an ATM machine there, you should figure out how to convert Fluffy or whatever I guess it has to be four letters, but whatever. So Puff. How do you have a cat named Puff and that's your password? You figure out what Puff is on the keypad. But in numbers. All right. That's the only useful advice you're going to get out of this show. All right. We're ready. We're going to get going here. I guess I had a whole thing that I wanted to talk about, but I'll wait. I will wait because there are other people who have things that they want to talk about. It seems only fair. All right. We're going to start with William in Middletown. Hi, William.
Well, hello. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Your vacation. I was actually going to call with this last Monday, but I didn't know you were on vacation, and I kept calling, and the line was busy. But anyway, the reason I wanted to call last Monday is because I had just heard the repeat of the show you did about Jill Sobel, is the name?
Sobel, yeah.
I was very affected by that. And when the show ended with her singing, I can't remember, there was a refrain of "Life is good," and knowing that she died.
Good life.
It was good. Yes,
good life.
I felt tears going down my cheek, and I just said, you know what? I don't ever do that. But I just got overwhelmed, and I said, I got to call Colin and let him know that was a pretty good experience, and it's nice to have that sense of commiseration and humanity and all that stuff. By the way, I went through a very bad period about many years ago, alcoholic related, that I listened to Carousel over and over again. Hearing June is busting out all over.
I'm going to have to think about that. All right, I do want to say a couple of things about Jill. First of all, I don't really deserve very much credit for that show. Jonathan McPants went in and just did this kind of weird kind of time warping piece of editing where he was zooming around in different times and just putting the whole thing together. So I still haven't listened to it because I just know it would make me sad all over again. But from what I'm gathering from people, it seems it's very seamless. It seems like just a very natural set of progressions, but really they were kind of all over the place. And the other thing I would say is that Jill is one of those rare artists who kind of did write the soundtrack for everything. That was like, there was a song right away that everybody knew had to be played at the end of any tribute to Jill Sobel because she had already written that song. And it's true for a lot of her other stuff too, that it's just, and the other thing, I'll say one more thing, which is one thing that I think you might have been responding to a little bit in addition to just the Jillness of Jill, is that, increasingly the kind of randomized conversations that she and I would have, where we really didn't know going into the booth what was going to happen, what was going to come up, what we're going to wind up talking about, and we just let it flow. And those are harder to have these days. I mean, there's just so much kind of just bearing down on us. It's like every day there's just, an Armageddon meteor, and Bruce Willis is up there trying to stop it, and it's just like all you can really talk about. Is Bruce going to get it this time? I think there was a little bit of a throwbacky nostalgia to the times when we could just talk about whatever. And I prize that.
And that's true. Spontaneous conversation is hard to have.
It is hard. Someday we'll have to have a longer conversation, maybe not on the air, about the period you went through and why you would be listening to Carousel. I just don't know that that's not what I would necessarily prescribe. But maybe. No,
I was in a bad place.
No, a bad place, yeah. But I just don't see how that gets you out. But, all right. But you'll never walk alone. That's the good news, I guess. And we're going to have to jump over to, thanks to William, who William, as usual, has provided us with an excellent, excellent beginning. Here is Mike from Woodbury. Let me also just once again say, you could call us for the first time ever. You don't have to be a professional call-in show caller. This could be your first time. Sometimes, really that's the time where you just hit the moonshot right away. So it's 888-720-9677. Many of these callers have been through elaborate training courses on how to call into talk shows, but you don't need that, if you have the talent. 888-720-WNPR. Mike, you have the floor.
All right, Colin, welcome back. So here's an idea that won't happen, but I think it would be great if it did. Let's say that Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and George W. Bush go to the networks and say, give us a half an hour on a weeknight in prime time. And this is what we're going to say. We're going to say, our fellow Americans, we know that you're very busy. You have lives. You have jobs. Many of you are raising kids. You don't have time to keep up with everything that's going on. It's so overwhelming. So all we want to do is just tell you, from our perspective, what's happening right now in this country. Each of us will speak for 10 minutes on a topic of our choice. And they shouldn't be hyperbolic. They should avoid cultural issues like DEI and LGBT. The economy, the fact that whole departments are wholesale being eliminated so that they're not going to have some of the public services they rely on, and just lay it out like that, and be very calm and say, maybe you like some of this stuff, maybe you don't like some of this stuff, but we just want you to know what's happening. And I think people, first of all, I think the audience would be like the equivalent of a presidential debate. It would be huge. And of course it would drive Trump nuts. But I think it would be an incredible public service. And I think there's no reason these guys shouldn't do it. I know that previously it was all, presidents shouldn't talk about the current administration. But by the way, they should just say, this is what your government is doing. I think they could even avoid mentioning Trump's name, But, Trump did nothing but, diss, Biden and Obama. So I think that is no longer an issue. I just think it would be, terrific and would have a huge impact, I think.
Well, first of all,
I don't know if
isn't Trump currently claiming that Biden was a robot or something? Can you look? Somebody look that up. But I just read this today that he's now like on Truth Social suggesting that Biden actually was replaced by some kind of automation or something. First of all, they should have replaced him with a better automation or whatever it was. Like if he's just being digitally added to a green screen, why wasn't that better? I don't mean to rain on your parade. I think it's a fine idea, and I like the fact that you're spending time trying to have some constructive ideas. I will say this. Go back with me in time now to 2008. So in 2008, near the end of the campaign, there was one night where Barack Obama said that he was going to essentially buy an hour of time on all three major networks, maybe PBS too, I can't remember, and just like for one final message. And I was teaching at Trinity College at the time, and I said to my class, many young people in the class, I said, so it's 9:00 on Thursday night. You definitely watch it at 9:00 on Thursday night. And they were all like looking at me in the way that, young people look at old people. And I finally realized they're not going to watch it at 9:00. They're going to watch it whenever. And that, they don't, we're of a generation where we would obey that kind of summons. And I actually think that's become compounded. I mean, that was 17 years ago. I think it's worse than that now. And I don't think I think increasingly people of voting age, younger people of voting age, they're not going to watch an hour of anything. They're not going to watch three old men talk to them or try to prompt stories from other people. It all gets cut up. It goes onto YouTube. They're going to watch it, 5, 6, 7 minutes of the best stuff that happened. And I also think this is just the mood I'm in, Mike, and I'm not casting asparagus on your idea, but the mood I'm in is it's time for the Democratic Party, not using old people who can't ever be president again. And I realize you put Bush in there to make it bipartisan, but the time for the Democratic Party to say, okay, here are the leaders for the next 10 years, and here's some ideas that they have. And we really need to listen to you and find out what you want and need. Politics isn't really that complicated, particularly at this moment. It seems complicated, but I think Ezra Klein is right. All you really have to do is sort of figure out what it is people need and what it is that people want, and then figure out how to get it for them or help them get it for themselves and explain how that's going to happen. And it's kind of what Trump did, except that he really didn't have any sincere or well-developed clue about how any of that might happen. So I like the part of your idea where you're kind of laying out the stories of regular people. I think that's important to do because the listening part of this is important. But I think the messaging, it can't come from guys who are kind of, who've hung up their cleats. I think we need to see who the new faces of American politics are.
Well, both, I
yeah.
think. But both. I mean, these guys. I mean, tens of millions of people, voted for these guys, on both sides of the aisle, and I think I don't know. I think it could have an impact, but I think what you're saying is also true. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need a new generation
and a
Democratic
message,
Party.
a real message. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the problems that the Democratic Party has right now is they got a lot of hockey goons who want to get on the ice and fight Trump. And they don't have a lot of scorers. They don't have a lot. They don't. It's like you got a bunch of Philadelphia Flyers bullies, but no Bobby Clark. So you can't say Gretzky anymore. You can't say that, but they don't have a Gretzky because Gretzky is compromised by Trumpism himself. But I think that's a big problem. It's the J.B. Pritzker, fine. He goes out there and he throws a bunch of punches at Trump and Trump's ideas and Trump's behaviors. But really, America is starving for some kind of message like, okay, we understand. We understand that you're paying more than 50% of your income for housing, healthcare, and taxes. Here's how we're going to fix that so you actually have some breathing room. Anyway, that's just my thought. But that doesn't mean that Mike's idea is not a good idea. There are no bad ideas. There may also be no good ideas. I'm not sure how that works. We're going to go. We have a spotted lantern moth alert right now. So anything that's spotted, we're very interested in right now. So here's Remy joining us with an advisory. I'm going to call it an advisory. Do you think that's appropriate?
Sure, that sounds pretty good.
Okay.
Because it is an advisory. I just want people to be more aware about what they plant in their front yards. As a matter of fact, they don't even plant it. It just grows wild. It's taken over the eastern seaboard, and I see it in people's front yards, and I tell them to cut it off and cut it down, and they look at me like I'm crazy.
What is it, though? What is it? What is it?
It is called Tree of Heaven. Scientific name is Atlantis altissimus, Tree of Heaven, or Atlantis tree. It is the primary host for the spotted lanternfly, which has, once it's developed, matured, it has red underwings, and you're supposed to eradicate it. You're supposed to kill it. You're not supposed to let it go alive. It is native to China, Taiwan, and it is just taken over everywhere, our backyards. It's I keep cutting it down, and it just keeps coming back and back and back.
Well, you're not cutting down
you're
cutting down the Tree of Heaven. You're not cutting down the spotted lantern moth, right?
Both.
I was actually briefly in a cult called Tree of Heaven. Mostly what we did is we would phone in pizza orders for Hawaiian pizzas and then not pick them up and then wait till they got thrown out and then we'd eat them. I'm not really sure what the theology was behind that. But so when you say Tree of Heaven, it just brings back memories, is all I'm saying. But yes, this is an important thing. So we cut down Tree of Heaven, and what else do we... first of all, maybe I shouldn't be barking out orders like this, since maybe we should get, I don't know, from somebody from the Yukon Extension or something to tell us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. An arboriculturalist, anybody that has any formal expertise. Supposedly there are universities out there working on a permanent herbicide that will just target that particular genus. But I think it's far off. And in the meantime, I drive by and I see people who are cultivating it. They're having it in the front yard, and they don't even know what it is.
No.
So I just want people to get out there, just Google it up, see what it is, and if you have it.
So you're going to Google Tree of Heaven? Is that what they're going to Google?
Yes, Tree of Heaven.
Yeah. How to recognize it?
Tree of Heaven.
Yeah. And there might be a disambiguation about the Hawaiian pizza thing, but there'll be a lot of good information about Tree of Heaven, the plant. And then we don't want it. We don't plant it. If we see it, we cut it down. I hope
the first step is to get yourself familiarized with what it is, because most people don't know what it is.
I would be one of those people. All right. Well, listen. I think we'll do a deeper investigation into this. I'm not suggesting, but right now, Remy is but one lone voice crying in the wilderness. And until a few other people cry in the wilderness, I don't want to go in 2 feet first or whatever. Okay. You can tell I'm a little rusty. Here we go. Here's Patty. Patty in beautiful Groton is about to speak to us. Hi, Patty.
Oh, hey, Colin. It's great to talk to you. I've been moved to call. I've been listening to you a long time. I've never called in before. But it's just a few things, little connections that get made, in my life, and just in listening to you. They've been popping up lately, and I'm like, I just have to call in. So I'm just happy to talk to you. I can't remember all the ones in the past few weeks that made me want to call in, but it has something to do with the Monkees.
Yes.
The show about the Monkees, who I don't know very well, but
You don't know the Monkees very well?
I do know. I mean, I watched the show. I'm that age.
Yeah, you're that age.
Yeah.
Let me.
I know.
I have a theory that has just come to me about the Monkees
Okay.
while you and I have been talking, an aperçu. And that is this. I think part of the thing that was cool about the Monkees, or that was inviting about the Monkees, is there's something kind of approachable about them. I mean, you were never going to be the Beatles, and you were probably never going to meet the Beatles. And if you did meet the Beatles, they probably wouldn't want to talk to you. And you certainly were going to meet the Rolling Stones. And if you were just saw them in an airport or something, they would not want to be with you or me or anybody else. But there's something like the Monkees seem like, maybe they'd be happy to meet you. Let's go over here. Let's have a seat. We'll have a little conversation. They weren't. I like the Monkees. I'm a big Monkees fan, but they weren't prodigiously talented, and they weren't super attractive, and so there was like a little bit closer to you and me. They were the people's band, were the Monkees. Even it's kind of contradictory that they were called the Monkees and they were the people's band. But you see what I'm saying.
This is one of the things that you're making me recall a photograph that I haven't seen in a really long time of like me and my 2 sisters, and we were all under the age of 8, and we had like rolled in that pile, like stacked on top of each other, and we were the Monkees for a minute in that photograph.
See, the other thing about the Monkees is they were sort of game, Like you get the feeling that if you asked the Beatles to do that, they probably wouldn't do it. I mean, maybe for a Richard Lester movie they would do that, but and there's Rolling Stones are no way that they would have to stop smoking long enough to do that. But the Monkees, they would. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no. So, but I just want to express what I wanted to say to you, like in particular, like just and you and your show and what it's become for me, and also just NPR and just having that voice of an adult in the background, like what that means to people. I go back to this time where I had this, the particular loneliness of caring for small children by yourself, or
Yep.
I guess it would be like also caring for an elderly person or anyone where it's just sort of you and them and you're doing the things. And there was a radio station out of Long Island, and there was the morning show guy, and he was my guy. And I don't know if I should mention his name or
You
his
can say
tagline,
who is your guy? Say your guy.
Well, so he called himself your old pal Ant. And his name was Anthony something.
Yeah.
And he had just a warm voice like you, and he would laugh. And then there was one morning where he just morning show rambled in between some good music, and he told an anecdote about someone finding an image of the Beatles on a pancake, like Jesus on toast.
Yeah.
And then he cracked a little joke. He's like, and then if you flipped over the pancake, it was an image of the Monkees.
I feel like that was meant unkindly somehow to the Monkees.
Well, maybe it was, but he then went into a full-on laughing attack, giggle fit, crying, laughing, and he, like, through 2 or 3 commercial breaks, couldn't compose himself, and he just kept saying the Monkees and giggling and having to go to commercial. and this sort of moment, I value, and I just want to thank you, because I don't know what happened to my old pal Ant, but for a long time there was no one, and then I found your show.
I do say to my staff with some regularity, if you strip away all the intellectualism and stuff like that, our real job is to be good company. So maybe the most important thing we do. So I'm glad we're good company to you. We have to take a little break. Terry's got something he wants to say, or she, Terry, or they. I don't really have a pronoun at the moment. And we'll be back.
I'm mad about good books, can't get my fill, and Paul looks give me a thrill, holding hands in the movie show, when all the lights are low, may not be new, but I like it, how about, I like it, how about you?
This is Connecticut Public Radio.
There's a young woman named Jordan who's dating a much older man named Bill. They maybe just got engaged. Good for them, I guess. But why are podcasters and people on social media doing deep investigations of their relationship? We'll ask on the next Today Explained.
This afternoon at 3:30.
Support for Connecticut Public Radio comes from the Stowe Center for Literary Activism. Not Your Grandma's Teacup Tour. Be inspired to make positive change. Visit stowcenter.org.
Hey, I'm Kyone Wolf, host of Audacious, where we celebrate the extraordinary experiences that make us human. Public media gives us space to share stories that are raw, real, and full of heart. But right now, federal funding that supports these voices is under threat. We risk losing the connections that remind us that we are in this together. You can make a difference. Visit ctpublic.org/protect and help us keep these stories alive.
Support for Connecticut Public Radio comes from Hartford Stage, whose production of Hurricane Diane, a contemporary comedy about climate change and ancient Greek gods, is on stage June 5th through the 29th. More at hartfordstage.org.
Talk about dragging his feet. I thought that old man would never go. He froze out April and he cold-shouldered May. June, it must have been the heat of your smile that chased him away. Tonight I feel let out of school with all summer to play. June, I can feel it in my blood. Expectations rising with the moon. Prayers and wishes flit like moths in the night. Something in my soul is being attracted to angel firelight. Fire I see burning bright in the green of your eyes. June, it's gonna happen. The whole wide world is opening its arms up. The horizon is rolling towards us like a wave.
I just had to let that one play a little bit extra long. It's such a beautiful song. And I haven't heard a pop tune in quite a few years that kind of grabbed me the way this did. Anyway, it's Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can call 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. Speaking of pop tunes, very soon, I'm going to say a week from Thursday, if all goes well, we will have our annual Song of the Summer show. And just to remind you, this is a show in which we, and by we I mean myself and a number of experts, try to figure out what will be the Song of the Summer. Now, the Song of the Summer has to be a recently released song that then starts to sum up the mood of the summer. And I don't think it's really clear right now what that song is going to be. But if you have any thoughts about it, we welcome input. You could even call 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR, and say what you think the Song of the Summer is going to be. And that would be input. All right, we're going to talk to Terry, and then we're going to talk to the superstar, Iman. But Terry goes first. Terry's been waiting quite a while. Hi, Terry.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. I'm calling about the budget bill.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of the budget bill that has been ignored, which is really important. And, when we listen to the news, we hear about what's going on in the Senate. We hear about needed revisions that have to do with the debt ceiling and the cutbacks to social programs, Medicaid, immigration, et cetera. But the important part that's being totally ignored is one sentence that the Republicans in the dark of night hid in their 1,000-page bill, which is a wonky provision which would prevent the courts from enforcing their own contempt citations for violations of injunctions or temporary restraining orders. I can read the sentence if you want, but it's kind of wonky. But the importance of this is that if this provision is not removed from the bill and the bill is passed, when Trump issues another illegal or unconstitutional executive order, the courts will issue an injunction against it. Trump will ignore it, and the courts will have, in almost all cases, no way to force him to abide by their injunction. And this seems to me to be a truly existential threat to the democracy.
I agree. And we should say, if it's the same provision that I'm thinking of, it applies only to the government. In other words, if the courts issue a restraining order to the government does not have to follow it. It doesn't allow the invalidation of restraining orders against you or me. Right. I agree. And I mean, so that, I don't know that this is a universal term, but in the Connecticut state legislature, that is often called a rat. A rat is something that's inside a bill that's not really supposed to be there. It exists because of some influence from some unwanted source. And that's definitely a rat. It doesn't belong in the budget bill. It doesn't have anything to do with the budget or the big, beautiful bill or whatever it is we're going to call it. You're right. It's just a get-out-of-jail-free card slipped in there. Now, the good news about this is that this bill it's on a journey. Hopefully the Democrats in the Senate will notice that and talk about it and maybe try to get it out. Probably have to be revoted in the House, too. There'll have to be reconciliation on whatever happens. This bill's on a long journey, so the things that are in it right now won't necessarily survive. But I say kudos to you, Terry, for calling that to people's attention.
Well, but I wrote to both senators asking them to talk about it more. I also wrote to Morning Edition, All Things Considered. I don't believe they've covered it even once, but they cover everything else repeatedly, and it really needs to be recognized by the general public so that they can see the threat that this represents and be in touch with people who could pull it out of the bill. But if nobody knows about it, there won't be enough pressure on the people in power to change this, and that's why I would like to encourage whoever is in a position to advertise this fact to encourage them to please do so.
Yeah. No, I'm not in the habit of making threats, but there'll be a strongly worded post on Facebook about this afternoon from me. But in some seriousness, that's who has influence. People have a lot more influence in some ways now because of social media, because everybody is effectively a publisher. And stuff gets, re-X'd or reposted or passed around. I mean, everybody who's listening who's concerned about this should, first of all, look it up. I can tell you that, let's see really quickly here, Reuters has a piece called Trump's Sweeping Tax Cut Bill Includes Provision to Weaken Court Powers. So if you could find a story like that, post it up on social media, put some commentary on it, definitely some flaming poop emojis. Those are always important. Ben Franklin used them. Make your voices be heard. Make sure people know about this. Spread the word. Thanks very much for that. And now we're going to go to superstar caller Iman from New Haven. You have the floor now.
Hi, Colin. I'm just calling to talk about boxes. Specifically, I am in the process of packing up my apartment and have been trying to get boxes. And one thing I've realized is that one should never pay for boxes.
No.
And I hope that people who are moving, this is definitely move-in time in New Haven, at least, with all the grad students leaving. And I just really, really want to encourage people never to pay for boxes. I think, if you look at all the stores in just, your neighborhood, in one day, they probably get enough deliveries to, pack up boxes for, 4 moves. So it just means getting out there, talking to the people who are managing stores and asking for boxes and some legwork, but I just want to say it's really worth it.
Well, the
And
other thing is,
super-
I mean, there's way too many boxes in circulation right now because everybody orders things from Amazon and other
That's
providers. So there's just insane amounts of boxes all over the place. I will say, as a little pro tip, I think one interesting place to go. One thing that Costco does is, at least that the iteration of Costco that I happen to patronize, they have like all the boxes. As you're leaving. And it's weird because Costco, you can't put stuff in bags and everything. All it's going to be sitting there in your car. But as you're leaving, they've got all the discarded boxes, including I think some especially useful ones. Sometimes you don't need a whole box. You just need kind of the tray-like box that contained umpteen zillion tomatoes or something that Costco just. And so they got all kinds of different shapes and they make it really easy. You don't have to go in and go,
Ask anyone.
excuse me, do you have any boxes that I can borrow? I'm moving. You know, you don't have to do that. It's just right there. You don't have to interact with anybody. So I think you're onto something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a member of Costco, but I will say Edge of the Woods, which is in New Haven, does that. They have boxes at their exit that you can also just grab. Package stores are great because their boxes are meant to carry like heavy liquor. So, you know, if you got some heavy stuff, like package stores are great. So you just, and then there are some stores that are a little bit weird about it, but then you just like move on and go to another store. And it's a good, you know, like you don't want to ask, you don't have to, but like it's nice to make friends that way.
It is. See, I think you're a more personable individual than I am. Like I just hate I don't like having to ask if there are any boxes because now I'm this guy who needs boxes. Whereas I would probably like the Costco system where I don't have to talk to anybody about it. But you might really enjoy forming a human bond with somebody over the question of boxes.
Yeah, and it goes to, I think you did a show on kindness, and the boxes definitely playing the kindness. And the other week I rounded the corner in CVS, and they were unloading boxes, and I kind of just like froze and stared at them, and they were like, "Are we in your way?" And I was like, "No, I'm coveting your boxes." And then they gave me 3 boxes, so that was good.
It'd be good if they gave you one with ketamine in it. I hear it's very, very fashionable right now. All right. Well, listen, I think this is great. I think what we're hearing here is humanity, and humanity's good. And not only that, but somebody should write a sea shanty about boxes. And here's Faye from Norwich, who may be able to get that ball rolling. Hi, Faye.
Hi, Colin. Great to hear you.
Great to be here.
Great. Yes, your good friends, the Jovial Crew, send their regards. And this coming weekend, June 6th through 9th, we have the 4th edition of the Connecticut Sea Music Festival happening in Essex.
And plenty of shanties there. I think we know.
Plenty, days and days of shanties.
And possibly even a box shanty, a shanty about boxes. Because when you think about it, probably in the old days, it wasn't like container ships now or something like that. It was probably things were a little bit more loosely packed or something. But
they were.
Yeah.
They were.
So they didn't have as many
But
boxes.
Yes, many of the songs that we sing come by way of the African-American stevedores who loaded the cargo.
I'm going to Costco to get me some boxes. I'm just getting the whole ball rolling here. I think the Jovial Crew can build on that. But thanks for the tip. We love sea shanties here. We did a whole sea shanty show. That's what she's referring to. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. Well, and, could I just relate a little incident that happened today? And I don't want to sound like I'm being critical. I'm more interested in kind of palpating the discomfort of this incident. By the way, we have open lines here. It's Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can call 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. I'm wildly gesticulating for reasons I don't quite understand. 888-720-WNPR. Okay, so speaking of boxes, but not really, today we had at our house, delivered to our house, a new washer and a new dryer. And parenthetically, our washer and dryer both died like a really long, it was like, there was something a little bit Norman Bates-like just about how long we kept the dead washer and dryer just sitting there. And for a while, I could start the washing machine I would do this whole Mr. Miyagi thing where I would make a little Mr. Miyagi speech, and then I would go into the stork pose, and I would kick the washing machine's door really hard, and that would make it close, and we could maybe wash a load of clothing, and worse things were happening with the dryer. And so we had these two just wounded spirit of 1776, machines sitting in our downstairs area with just bandages around their heads and playing little fifes and drums. And so finally, and meanwhile, my significant other began taking our laundry to one of those places where they wash your clothes for you. And then she got really bonded with the people there. I mean, she becomes best friends with people very, very easily, but she really loved these people. And so she was having such a fruitful experience visiting with these people and getting to know them and their stories. She's like the opposite of me. Like I'm the guy, I can barely stand to ask another human being for boxes. She knows everything about people that she deals with. One day, a AAA guy showed up to jump her car, and by the end of their conversation, they were hugging as they said goodbye. Okay, so anyway, we didn't do anything about this, and then I thought, well, we need a washer and a dryer. So I ordered a washer and a dryer, and they came today. And what happens, if you get them from Costco or you get them from Home Depot, as was the case this time, they get delivered and they agree to take your old ones away. But the people there who do it, they don't exactly work for Home Depot. I think this is a special, different kind of service. And so they hooked up our washer and dryer, and then one of the guys says to me, "Do you have your phone?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, look at your texts, because there's a survey." And then I said, "Okay, yeah, I had already even seen that there was a survey, but I wasn't going to fill out the survey until I knew that everything was fine." But apparently he felt everything. And so he said, "Okay, so on the first question, 5 stars." He's standing right there, And then the second question, 5 stars. And I'm thinking, I don't think this is how it's supposed to work. I feel badgered here. I mean, I probably would. I mean, I had no problems with these people. They did a fine job, I think. But I've never had anybody do that. Say, all right, fill out the survey right this second while I'm standing here. So, I mean, I gave them 5 stars on things I stopped reading the questions at a certain point. I knew 5 stars was what I was, but it's under duress is what I'm saying. It may not be my genuine feeling. All right, so we got a bunch of people calling up here. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, and then other things are going.
Support comes from the New Britain Museum of American Art, presenting Lure of the Sea, Masterworks of American Coastal Art, an exhibition tracing years of artistic engagement with the maritime world. On view through July 20th. nbmaa.org.
I'm Robin Young. After her cousin nearly fell victim to a spiked drink, a college sophomore helps create and market a smart straw.
So you can put the straw within your drink all night long, and then if one of those date rape drugs are dropped in your drink, it'll then shift colors, letting you know that your drink is then spiked.
Next time, Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon at 2.
Connecticut Public Mini Docs Original Series has a new collection of local stories.
People come here, they come here for opportunity. That's the idea of the American dream.
Guided by striking visuals and everyday Connecticut voices, exploring our identity through the hearts and minds of the people that live here.
At the end of the day, we have to help as many people.
They're short but powerful. Watch the new collection now at ctpublic.org/minidocs.
Support comes from the Brain Injury Alliance of Connecticut, raising voices and visibility of people with brain injury and improving lives through support, education, and advocacy, and a free helpline. Learn more at biact.org.
Jesus, what's a girl to do? Well, this boy doesn't even know the difference between there and they are. Yet he's naked in my room. And I'm missing all the things he's missing. God knows that he isn't living large. A boy who's nice that breathes. Said, I swear, he's nowhere to be seen. It's slim pickings. If I can't have the one I love, I guess it's you that I'll be kissing. Just to get my fixings. And since the good ones call their exes wasted, and since the Lord forgot my gay awakening, then I'll just be here in the kitchen, serving up some moaning and bitching.
That musical interlude was provided to you by the maestro, Dylan Reyes. That was Maestro's Choice. We do them every Monday when we're doing this type of show, leading into the final segment. We also thank everybody. I already thanked him, but Jonathan McPants is the producer of this show. Meanwhile, our bosses are working really hard in there. Robin Doyen Aiken is fielding calls. That's the first voice you hear when you call 888-720-WNPR. And Meg Fitzgerald may or may not be handling comments on our YouTube thing, which I just checked and had 21 people on it. So probably not too many comments. But if anybody does comment, it will be administered in a thoroughly professional and enlightened way. All right, back to the phones. And we have all kinds of things to talk about. Well, let's start with Petra. Petra, a pretty regular caller to the show. Welcome back, Petra.
Hi, Colin. Thank you for having me.
Can I make a confession to you? Every time that you call, what I want to do is sing Petra, how too exciting, just what I needed. It's from A Little Night Music. Do you know the musical A Little Night Music?
Unfortunately, I don't. I'm Kleine Knox Music. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's a Sondheim show, and there's a character named Petra. So there you go.
It's a great name, I think. I did it, partly because of my male name being Peter, and it was an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem to me. Anyway, I wanted to call about Pride. We've got coming up in Hamden next Saturday from 12 to 4, next to the library, that park, and then in North Haven on the 14th. And it's the first time since Trump took over and we lost the election. I feel like they're directly responsible for the Democrats losing the election, because they spent $300 million on, she's for they, them, and he's for you, which I had to watch throughout the World Series last October. And now people are being kicked off their hormones, which are, cheap treatments. We're talking about, drugs that cost pennies, and they're not going to let them do them on Medicaid, and they're not going to let them you do have to have a doctor to, check levels and things like that. Yeah.
They're also eliminating pennies. It's like they're just getting us every which way.
And we're getting rid of thousands of people who are probably the trans men in the U.S. Armed Services are probably among the most intelligent, dedicated, courageous people in the U.S. Armed Services. And there are thousands of them. There's 2 million in the armed services. There's only about 5,000, I think, trans people. But these are up at the top in terms of who joins the armed services. Why would you want to do that?
The other thing is, the armed services is having trouble filling its ranks too.
That's right.
I mean, they spend, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, they spent about $6 billion just recruiting, and I think the Navy in particular has the biggest problems. But
they hate us so much.
Yeah,
they hate us so much, and it's because we are a basic threat to the patriarchy. And the fact is that if men can become women, then maybe men are not naturally superior to women. The whole business of changing questions everything, and it's not like the patriarchy has done a great job keeping women and children and vulnerable people safe. I mean, my God, you got, the century by century, more and more sexual violence, more and more sexual trafficking, more and more vicious pornography. Is this patriarchy protecting everybody? No.
I said something in the 90s when I was on WTIC. I started coming out in favor, kind of early, I think, for gay marriage. But one thing I would say when people would push back is, it's like I say, it's not like us heterosexuals are doing a really great job with this institution right now.
Exactly.
Let's have somebody else have a crack at it. We can barely make it work at all. So yeah, no, I hear you, and I think Pride Month is coming at the right time, at a time when a lot of people are feeling pretty beleaguered and sort of re-marginalized after a period of enlightenment, or some enlightenment anyway. So I do want to say, because you mentioned the World Series, as you may know, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. Every year, at the beginning of June, the Packers put up a thing on social media. It's a rainbow-colored rectangle, and it says "Football is for everyone." And so it makes me proud to be a Packers fan.
I hope they keep doing it. I really hope they keep doing it this fall. The athletics issue that you raise is what's killed us in the trans community. I mean, I think LGBT people are doing pretty well, actually, but the trans community is being, we're slated for extinction because of males going into female sports, and it happens at a rate of almost zero.
Yeah, I think there are about 500,000 NCAA athletes, and the NCAA can only identify 10 people who fall into that category.
I mean, 10 people, and this question can't be solved by a blanket prohibition because there's too much intersex, and because if you have 5 or 6 years of hormones, you're really changed. I mean, dramatically. You got to look at people on a case-by-case basis. If someone is playing on the doctors and the people in charge of that athletic association have to look at this particular person and say, should you be allowed to play high school girls soccer or something like that? And,
we need a more nuanced approach than what we've seen so far. I totally agree, and it's just weird how much capital they were able to derive from this very kind of niche issue. But anyway, Petra, I just have to move on here. Just want to get one or two people more on the air. Here is Lenora in New Hartford. Hi, Lenora. You get the floor.
Hi. How are you?
I'm just fine.
I have a 30-second tidbit to share with you. I heard it yesterday morning on one of the talk shows.
Okay.
It was Senator Warnock from Georgia. He's a Democrat. Was talking about the bill, and he called it the big ugly bill. I thought that's a catchy way of putting a dig in on Trump instead of the big beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is kind of embarrassing that we have a president who doesn't have much vocabulary usage.
No.
So anyway, I just thought it would be nice if this catches on to call it the big ugly bill.
I bet we could come up with a better thing than big ugly. That's too Trumpy. That's what he would call it if he didn't like it. I think we have to devote. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Otherwise, I would totally crowdsource this thing. But I don't think we have time right now. I can put Jeff on for 50 seconds, which I realize you want to have a longer conversation about disagreeing. But would you like to say anything now in your remaining 40 seconds?
I'll give it a shot, sure. Some of the issues I'd love to talk to you about, I'd like to get your views on whether you think the Democrats need to get tougher on crime, whether they need to get tougher on illegal immigration, more maybe change their positions on. I absolutely loved Bernie Sanders back in 2016. I think he's gone way too far to the left, and I would love to get your opinions on the free crap for everybody position that people like Bernie and Elizabeth Warren like to push. Maybe I'll call you back some other time.
All right.
I have a little bit more time.
I mean, I would say free crap for everybody is a little bit like Big Beautiful Bill. It's like in just sort of saying what you're saying. The nomenclature is an attempt to, define the issue before we have a conversation about it. So when you call back earlier next time, let's try not to do things like that. All right. I'm sorry to Ellen. I would have liked to talk to more about Tree of Heaven, whether it was the cult I was in or the plant, the invasive plant or whatever it is. But no time. Anyway, we will be back next week, probably, I would think, unless something bad happens.